Hey y'all, happy Sunday to you. How's everybody doing? Looks like we've got a pretty good crowd going on over here in the chat. Welcome to live Q&A number 14. And before we get going on any questions, I want to kind of explain a couple things here. I have traditionally, for the past, 3, 4 years, however long I've been doing this, I put the channel on hiatus, and because I have 5 kids and 5 grandkids, and it's holidays, and I got to make stuff for everybody. So I just do not have time to do a weekly video. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not taking any time off. Believe me. Um, uh, and I do want to keep these Sunday live sessions going. So, on top of that, this year we have an added little complication in that my wife is going in for knee replacement surgery day after tomorrow. So, Tuesday, she goes in for knee replacement surgery. So, I'm going to be ramrodding this outfit for a few weeks anyway until she gets back to normal. We're telling folks she's having suspension work done. So, ball joint replacement basically is what's going on there. So I'll be taking care of all that on top of everything else I've got to do. So there is just simply no time for a weekly video for the foreseeable future. I will be coming back the first Sunday in the first Sunday in January, which will be run past here on my calendar. First Sunday in January will be the 5th. So that's where that's where I'll pick up where I left off. I've got several projects in mind. As I'm making all of these projects for Christmas presents, etc., etc., I will be shooting video and I will be making videos. I just won't have time to get them edited, uploaded, and closed caption and all that other stuff. So I'm not going to say what they are because, they're presents. But there will be some videos coming up starting the 5th of January. So let's go ahead and run down who all's in here. All things YouTube. Matt Haas over there, Mervin Schumacher, David Krause, Thomas Grimm, Walter Woodle, Steve Nealon, webmaster to the stars over at Harneal Media, Leroy CNC Woodworks. I don't know if you saw my reply to your comment on the rotary axis video there, Leroy, but if you can shoot me a message through the contact us page on my website. It was just way too much to try to go into in a YouTube comment. So let's see. We have Richard Poland, Mark By, Alan Prince, how you doing? Mike Smith, Falcon Crest Woodworks, Bob Heltebridle, the man himself, Frankie C and Woodworking Channel, John DeRoos, Cam LaFrance. Okay, Camila France says that getting bad feedback. Is that something that people getting feedback out of my mic here? Shouldn't be. I've got headphones plugged in and there are no speakers here. So if my audio is bad, please let me know. Let's see. Arturo Fuentes. Can you help me set up a carve for my first 3D model? I did a whole series on 3D modeling, or not 3D modeling, excuse me, carving, and I'll put a link to the playlist for that series in the description of this video after it goes live. I'll make a note of that right now. Oh. This is what it's like to be me. I got this newfangled 24-inch monitor here, and I reach underneath this corner of the monitor to grab a pencil to make a note, and it's one of these magic monitors that doesn't have a button. It senses when your finger is underneath it. So my monitor just turned off. Live. Okay. Yeah, I'll put a link to the playlist down in the description of this video when it goes live. So, let's see. Let's see. Turn a leg on the CNC Bob Helta bridle. I am going to be getting into some more rotary axis work for sure. I haven't used it in a year, and I really want to get back into it. And I do have a couple projects that will need the rotary axis. We'll get into a bit of designing and projecting a profile around the rotary axis for those folks who have them. Okay, getting some comments back, no feedback. It must be yours, Mr. LaFrance. Sorry. Okay, let's see. Scott Wilson, I appreciate you helping us all out. Scott, I started doing this because I was the guy looking for answers, and I had to go through about 14 different sources to find stuff. So, been there, done that, got the t-shirt, and I figured, well, heck, let me just go ahead and start doing some tutorials for questions that people are asking repeatedly. So, I just hope everybody's getting getting good value out of them. So, okay, let's see. Scott Wilson, what software do you use? Well, two different softwares. For CAD and CAM, I use Vectric Aspire, but I started out with VCarve Pro back before VCarve Desktop was even around. And I've never looked back. I know a lot of people use Fusion 360, and it is a great program. Most folks find Fusion 360 very difficult to learn until they get used to it. And for the type of work most folks do on a CNC router for wood, it's a pretty big hammer. It's like, hanging a poster with a sledgehammer. It's an excellent program. If you're doing a lot of parts for assemblies, you might look into it. I don't use it. I have used it. I'm not much for it, but that's not the kind of work I do. So, I do love Aspire. Just got it. I believe it was June I got Aspire. Just upgraded from VCarve. So I'm still learning a lot of it, and I'll be getting more into 3D as time goes by. But then for the controller out on the CNC, I use Mach 3. There's been several people ask me if I have or will be upgrading to Mach 4, and I don't plan on it. Mach 3 is probably singularly responsible for home hobby CNC machines, because before Mach 3 the alternatives were so expensive the average home user couldn't afford the controller software for a home CNC. And it works just fine for what I do and what I'm using. If I were just getting into it today, I wouldn't use Mach 3. I would go ahead and go for Mach 4. But I have Mach 3 installed. I have the license for it. I just don't see the need to upgrade to Mach 4. It works with my system. So, Benjamin Lipinski wants to know, what concerns should I be aware of switching from laser to CNC and vice versa? I'm going to have to claim ignorance there, Benjamin, because I do not have a laser on my CNC. I had a K40 laser, one of the little imported lasers. Used to sit back here behind me on this rack, but I had to send it back because it was so freight damaged it would just never get aligned, and my limited experience with it told me that it was the wrong laser for me. I'm going to be building a new shop hopefully next year. And after that, I have plans on building a big laser. We'll see how that turns out. Don't know yet. So, as far as what concerns should I be aware of switching from laser to CNC, I take it you've got something like the JTech Photonics. I would, if you're not a member of the Gatton CNC Facebook group, that's Gatton CNC, I would join over there. There's a lot of people over there that have a JTech laser on their CNCs, and they really, really know their business with them. They really love them. But it's just not the right laser for me, so I didn't invest in one. Let's see. Okay, I got you now, Bob. Duh. You turn a leg for the wife on the rotary axis. Yeah, I could do that. Okay. Alan Prince, I've made a video of my work bee, just need to edit. We'll send you a link when done. Okay, cool, Alan. And I'll link it for you as well once I get the link. I'd like to see one in action. I've talked to a couple people who have the work bee, and they seem to like it well, but I've never seen one in action. So I'm eager to see it. Scott Wilson, my fourth axis is still in the box for 6 months. Yeah, been there, done that. Mine's been sitting on his shelf for about a year. So, okay, Miss D, how do I figure out how deep my bit can go into the wood on a single pass? There are a couple of things well, it depends on what you're trying to do. The normal rule of thumb for depth of cut on a bit is no more than 1/2 of the bit's diameter. Having said that, there are exceptions to that rule. A compression bit, it depends on several things. There's a lot of variables. Some machines are robust enough to handle cutting 1/2 inch and 3/4 inch material in a single pass. Some are not. It also depends on the diameter of the bit. If it's a 1/4 inch diameter bit, you can, with a compression bit, you can generally go 1/4 inch deep per pass. If it's something like a 1/8 inch bit, I would be very hesitant to go more than, probably 3/16 of an inch. I wouldn't go the bit's diameter. Not 3/16 of an inch, 3/32 of an inch, excuse me. It just depends on the diameter of the bit and how rigid your machine is and what your feed rate is. Generally speaking, I have all of my bits set. I don't use a compression bit. I need to get one and experiment with it. But generally speaking, I have the depth per pass on all of my bits set to 1/2 of the bit's diameter. So 1/8 of an inch for a 1/4 inch bit, a 1/16 of an inch for an 1/8 inch bit, etc. There are exceptions, but that comes with experience with that particular bit. So let's see. Laroy CNC and Woodworks, do you design for Rotary and VCarve Pro? You can, and that's one of the videos I want to do. I want to show how to draw a profile of what you're attempting to turn between centers and then project that profile around sweep that profile around the item. Along whichever axis you turn on. And there's a couple of hoops you have to jump through, but I've been holding off on that video for about a year now, and that's just simply because other things have bumped it back. So let's see. Scott Wilson, Benjamin, make sure when you switch from CNC to laser, make sure you have your spindle unplugged. Yeah, I've heard that. Folks get a surprise when they turn their machine on. Scott Wilson, I'm glad I have a mustache where I can enter your shop. There you go. When you have a sister-in-law that works for a thrift shop or charity shop, for those of you in the UK, you get some strange things brought over to you. They got that in, and somebody donated that to sell, and she said, "Oh, I know exactly who to send that to." So, Dave Clemens, when do you use an upcut bit and when do you use a downcut bit? Okay. I've been thinking about making a video specifically for this topic because it can get pretty involved, but to condense it down to the Reader's Digest version, generally speaking, I use an upcut bit when the bottom surface I'm pocketing matters, or the bottom surface of whatever I'm cutting through matters. An upcut bit ejects the chips upward out of the slot it's cutting, but it can also, which leads to tear out along the top edges, like in plywood or something. A downcut shears downward, so it cuts the surface of that material in a downward motion and shears off those wood fibers without all the chip out. However, as it's forcing those chips downward, they need to have a place to go. So generally speaking, as the bit starts moving, the chips will pile up behind, still in that slot. As a result, you can kind of get a rougher bottom in a pocket as a result of that. So if I'm cutting something where the top surface matters and I need that clean, I'll use a downcut bit. If I'm cutting something where the bottom surface matters and I need to keep that clean, I'll use an upcut bit. Another thing to consider is with an upcut bit, it can lift the center of a large piece of material up as it's cutting. As it's cutting, it will try to pull the material upwards just slightly. So if you're pocketing in something like 1/4-inch plywood, you might want to consider some tape and CA glue or double stick tape in the center of that piece of material when you go to cut it, because it can lift up the material, and that'll lead to machining marks and trails that you have to try to sand out. It can do it in thicker materials, but it can do it in thicker materials if you're running fast feed rates. So I tend to run downcut bits a lot. In fact, that's my preferred. That's my go-to. Speaking of new bits and etc., I just yesterday ordered a Manna 1/2-inch ball nose bit for a couple of Christmas present projects I've got to do, not next week, but the week after that. And I'm here to tell you these suckers are pricey. $85 for that 1/2-inch ball nose bit. And that was one of the cheaper ones. And yes, it is a downcut. So, let's see. Jim Bashir's in the house. Jeff Peters, Restorer 66, in the house as well. Let's see. Miss D, do you have a video where you explain in depth all the tool paths, their options, and what each section is referring to? Okay, I'll put a link to my CNC for Absolute Beginners series in the description of this video. See if I can do this without shutting off my monitor. Make a note. And in the first 3 or 4 videos, I went through each toolpath type. I went through profile toolpath, then pocketing, then V-carve toolpath, and went through the various options in between in each toolpath setup. And then I did a series strictly on V-carving because there's a lot to be involved with in there. So I'll do that one too. I'll put links to both of those playlists in the description of this video when it goes live. So let's see. Oh boy, Jonathan W. How you doing today, Jonathan? For those of you who don't know, Jonathan W. is a man who can make anything. He's not into CNC, but he can make anything by hand. I wish I lived closer. He's got a CNC mill. I'd have him running that puppy in a few weeks. That would be fun. Jonathan can make anything. He's currently in the process of building, I guess it's a 31 Ford Roadster out of parts he had from several different cars. And it's like, oh boy, that's like his fourth, fifth, sixth car build this year. So if you're into car stuff, if you're into machine stuff, old rusty metal, hit up Jonathan W. over there at his YouTube channel. Very cool guy, and he's a flipping genius is what he is. Okay, let's see. Mervin Schumacher. I know you do not have a shark, but I do my tool paths and get 39.45 time to cut. But when I cut the tool path, it will be longer time. Okay, yeah, it just depends on how fast you actually run the tool path. Some of those time estimates aren't quite very accurate, but when you go into that that time estimate, the toolpath summary, and you look at the time estimate, pay attention to what it says the estimate's going to be. Then when you go out and run the toolpath, look at how long it actually took. And just below, go back to that estimate and look at it. Just below the time estimate, you'll see a rapid rate, then you'll see a little drop-down box that says scale factor. Adjust that scale factor to where that estimate is a little bit closer to what your actual time was, and that'll give you a little bit better estimate on what the time is. And if you save that once, VCarve and Aspire will save that scale factor. So let's see. Laroy C at Woodworks, don't drill with a downcut bit. Yes, I forgot to talk about that when you use a upcut bit versus a downcut bit. If you are drilling straight down, use an upcut bit. Regardless, it's just always an upcut bit for drilling straight down. I don't mean if you're drilling, say you've got a 1/4 inch bit and you're drilling a say maybe a 5/8 diameter or 1/2 inch diameter hole. That's fine, because it's going to move and the chips will be able to evacuate. But if you drill straight down with a downcut bit, cutting a 1/4 inch hole with a 1/4 inch bit, there is no place for those chips to go. They're being forced down by the bit, and friction from that router spinning at 16 to 20,000 RPM or more will start a fire. And I don't say that as a guy who heard from a dude who knows a guy whose friend of a buddy did it. I say that as a guy I did it. I set a project on fire, drilling straight down with a downcut bit, not knowing any better. And all of a sudden, the bit came up out of the hole I was drilling. Glowing embers fell off of that bit, and I looked down and saw smoke, dumped my soda on it, pulled that piece of wood off the machine, threw it out the door, and my spoil board was on fire. Do not drill holes with a downcut bit. Always make sure to use an upcut bit. So, Jonathan W., you are far too kind. I speak only the truth, and I call him the way I see him. This guy can make anything. Okay, Jim Bashir's question, are there any bit kits you would recommend? I've seen some on Amazon and in the wood stores that had like 5 or 6 bits in it. Bit kits, I could do a little bit of looking around based on the bits I own. I don't have any off the top of my head. I know Whiteside has several. Amana does too, but Amana bits are pricey. Um, I, as far as what bits to have, a couple of things are going to determine that, what you're going to do with it. I did a video. I'll put a link to that one in the description as well. I did a video on the bits that, in my opinion, I think a beginner should have on hand. They should see you through just about every project you can think of. It is, as far as kits are concerned, gosh, I'm trying to think. It's a Whiteside. I'll look it up, and if I find it, I'll put a link in the description. There is a Whiteside starter kit that has a couple of spiral end mills and a few V-bits, and I think a tapered ball nose or two. That should basically get you through just about anything you need. I've always been the kind of person who buys bits. The same thing with regular router bits for like a router table or a handheld router. I've always been the kind of person who buys bits as needed, because that's one of those things you can go out and you can spend a ton of money on buying bits that you'll never use. So I just get them as needed, so I tend to not buy kits. So, but I will look one up and then throw a link into this video. So, let's see, a bit set. See, this is where I get all my ideas. Y'all come up with some real good ideas for me. So, let's see. Mervin Schumacher, you always have the answer. Yes, I always have the answer, so long as you accept the fact that I don't know is a legitimate answer. So, let's see. Did I, MacTech 007, did I cover using compression spiral bits? No, I have not. I don't have any compression bits. I do need to get some and try them out. As a matter of fact, now's the perfect opportunity, because one of the things I'll be making later on in the spring is I need to make a couple of cabinets. So I'd like to use some compression bits for that. So there will be a video on them coming up in the future, I guess. Let's see. Jeff over at Restore 66. I want to make some snack bowls. I need to add a 1/2-inch diameter bowl bit. Does the V-Carve 10 have that bit in it already? I don't think so. If you have a... depending upon who you got that bit from, Jeff, look to see if they have a Vectric tool file for that bit. If they do, that's your best bet. Go ahead and import that. It's a .tool tool file. If they have it, go ahead and import that. If not, you can enter it just as a standard end mill or ball nose and just name it bowl bit. You won't get a 100% accurate representation of it in the preview. Or you can do the... I don't think I did a tutorial on it, but I know Vectric has a tutorial on entering new bits into the database, where you draw half of the profile of the bit and then enter it using that method. Look in your software, go to Help, then open Tutorial Browser, and then go down to Tool Database, and that tutorial is there. They'll show you how to draw a profile of half of the bit, or half of the profile. They just need the right side. So, but I don't think there is a bowl bit specifically in there. So let's see. MacTech 007. Freud has a couple of nice CNC starter kits. Yeah, there's a few people that have them. Dave Clemens got one here recommending the 705 starter set. There are a couple of different kits out there that look pretty good. It's just going to depend on what you do. If you do a lot of V carving and don't do any 3D work, then a tapered ball nose probably isn't really necessary for you. I mean, I went 4 years without tapered ball nose bits. I was able to do everything I wanted to do without them. But then I started getting further and further into 3D work, and I needed that stronger bit and that taper to clear away the edge of the material on some of my deeper carves. So it just depends what you need. So, Mark By, what is a compression bit? A compression bit, you just heard me talking a little bit about an upcut bit versus a downcut bit. A compression bit is both. It is upcut on the bottom and downcut on the top, with an area in the center that just kind of grinds away material. So you can plunge the depth of that upcut portion into the material and then cut out the material in 2, 3, 4 passes and have a clean surface on both sides. So it's basically upcut and downcut at the same time. Let's see. Okay, Jim Bashir's got a good recommendation from MacTech. Cool. Awesome wood things. Can I grab about 15 minutes of your time sometime soon? Matt, you hit me up on Facebook. We'll jump in a hangout and go for the gusto. Let's see. Mike Smith. Spindle TV has a tutorial on entering new bits to the tool database. Laney Shaughnessy over at Spindle TV does an excellent show. And we're talking about, I don't know if he does a regular weekly show or not. Look him up on YouTube. Spindle TV is the name of the channel. And it is a live stream like this. He sits down in the software and he designs something, takes questions, gives answers. Laney is a good guy, one of the most genuinely nice people I've ever met in my life. And he knows his stuff. Believe me, he knows the Vectric software. So, in fact, I'll put Spindle TV, I'll put a link to him in the description when this goes live. Boy, we're going to be a lot of links. So check back. Give me about 15 minutes to find all these links. So check back. Yeah, about 15, 20 minutes after this video goes live and becomes a regular show. And all these links will be there. Let's see. Miss D, I'm new to using VCarve in the CNC. I have VCarve desktop, but would it be worth it to upgrade to Pro? Miss D, that's a tough call, and it's a decision that you're going to have to make yourself. The main differences between desktop and Pro are desktop is limited to 24-inch by 24-inch cutting capacity. If your machine cuts bigger than that, it may be worth it to you to upgrade. If your machine doesn't, it's probably not worth it. Another difference is VCarve Desktop does not support the use of gadgets. And there are several gadgets that VCarve Pro uses, like you have the keyhole gadget, where you can pick a place on a project and create a keyhole for hanging on the wall. They have Celtic weaving gadgets, where you can create a Celtic weave. They have various turning gadgets and fluting gadgets. They have all kinds of things. Just little extra add-ons that aren't included in the normal tool pathing. So if you think you might use something like that, it might be worth it. If not, or if your CNC doesn't cut larger than 24 inches by 24 inches, then it may not be worth it to you. That's a judgment call you're going to have to make. The one good thing about Vectric, the company, is if you should decide to upgrade from desktop to pro, um, you only pay the difference in price between desktop and pro. You don't have to buy, you don't have to pay full price for the full software. And if later on you decide you want to upgrade to Aspire so you can do 3D models, create your own 3D models, you only pay the difference between VCarve or whichever version you have and Aspire. You don't pay the full price. So let's see. So Laney shows are not weekly. Then Jeff says it's on Tuesday night and will resume after December 7th. Okay. Okay. Alan Prince, have you ever used the box making gadget? No, Alan, I have not. There's so many things I have not used. There are box making gadgets. There are all kinds of gadgets. So, can you design in desktop and export projects bigger than 24 by 24? No. No, you cannot. It is limited to 24 by 24. There are some workarounds with some software, some controller software, but I've never done that. I've never needed to. When I bought VCarve, desktop wasn't an option. You had to buy VCarve Pro. So, okay, well, it's been about, we've been on for about 35 minutes, so I'm going to do something a little bit different here. I want to kind of spotlight a YouTube CNC guy by the name of Ed Johnson. Pardon me while I look. Yes, I am screen sharing. This gentleman's name is Ed Johnson, and he's fairly new to YouTube, but he is not new to CNC or the Vectric software. He's only got 5 videos right now. He just started posting about 3 weeks ago. And as you can see, his videos are on the long side. I say that as a guy who makes long videos myself. These are some excellent projects. He really knows his stuff. He goes into making different types of almost dovetail joints. In this one, it's pin and circle joint and an arrow joint. This one is a stacking box he made, an inlaid cutting board, 3D maps, a composition 3D model for this key hook, and all of this is done in VCarve Pro. Ed is a nice guy. He knows his stuff. He knows what he's doing here. And these are excellent, excellent tutorials. I've already put a link to Ed's YouTube channel in the description of this video, and I would encourage anybody who's watching to go over to Ed Johnson's YouTube channel and check it out. This guy does excellent videos, a nice pace that you can follow, and he knows his stuff. So that's my tip for the day on that. So, oh, excuse me. So let's see. Let's see. We've got 2 more questions. Well, 1 more question here, and then I'm going to go ahead and call this to a close. Mark, any idea if the latest Aspire or VCarve Pro will be able to do cabriole legs in rotary, in the sense that the bit can go down below the 0 plane? I don't think that it can, but if you're doing them on rotary, you should be able to. I mean, it'll model it. VCarve Pro will not. Aspire, you can model it, but you shouldn't need to go below the zero plane because with the rotary axis turning, yeah, I don't think it would need to do so. So, but I do know, yes, you can cut cabriole legs in both VCarve and Aspire. You just won't be able to model them in VCarve. You'll have to use Aspire for that. Now, you can import a model of a leg that you want to carve into VCarve. But other than that, I hope that answers your question. So, alrighty. Bob Heltebridle, is your iced tea cold? No, but my Pepsi is. Thank you very much again, Bob. That is very cool. It's in the other room or I'd show it off, you know? What can I say? So, alrighty, we're going to go ahead and end this now. Good God, I've been on here for 40 minutes already. Again, I'm not going to be taking any time off, really. I just will not have to. I just won't have time to go ahead and post a video every week. So, see, coming up, have a good Thanksgiving for those of you in the U.S. And for everybody else, have a good Thursday. I will be back next week. We'll do another ad lib Q&A like this next Sunday, noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. And I'll be posting links, and those of you who are subscribed will get a notification in your subscription feed. And if you click the little bell, you'll get a notification on your device when I schedule the live. And other than that, check out Ed Johnson's YouTube channel. I'll get these links up in the description just as quick as I can. Thank you all for hanging with me this Saturday, and y'all take care.